Welcome back to Whovo Review. I am your host, Farrar, and we have three guests this week. Lewis.
Hi.
Paul.
Hey there.
And Anna.
Hello again.
Back again for, wow, this is a record for Anna. Twice in a single season.
You're on a roll.
And we're talking about a very exciting episode and a somewhat controversial episode because people keep trying to figure everything out, but it's part one of a two-parter, so we will probably leave certain questions unanswered. We are talking this week about Heaven Sent.
Is it part one of a two-parter or part two of a three-parter?
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm. I think Face the Raven was a prequel to our two-part season finale. I wanted to say that it was part one of a three-part season finale, but the tone of this episode was so different from last week that I think that was more like that was just a Clara exit episode, and this is part one of a two-part season finale. That's just the way it felt to me, just because of the tone of this episode was so starkly different from last week. There was almost no humor in it at all. To me, it was a really compelling episode. I really had to keep watching it.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas last week, the pacing was kind of up and down, and there were moments where I could really relax and say, let's just let this kind of wash over me for a minute.
Yeah.
This week, I really had to keep watching. It was really interesting.
Yeah, I felt it. It was magnetic, really, really compelling.
Peter Compelling?
Peter Compelling.
Peter Compelli?
Except for the where Clara's character was his sounding board. This was pretty much 100% Capaldi. This was just fantastic. I mean, his performance in this is the best we've seen of his, bar none.
I felt there were very few other doctors that could have actually pulled this one off. I felt myself imagining, what would Tom Baker have done in this situation? He could have done it, but I can't imagine many of the other ones actually getting through this episode.
Some people were saying, picture Peter Davison's doctor in this role. Because Davison was a little more of the self-sacrifice, self-doubt doctor.
I don't think he would have gotten through the wall.
But yeah, that's the thing. I can see him pulling the trigger and doing the teleport thing.
Yeah.
And dying for himself, basically. But what I can't see him doing is punching through a wall that's, 40 times harder than Diamond?
Yeah.
His resolve and his determination in this is what this is all about.
Yeah, and not too many callbacks to previous adventures. This episode to me was all about looking forward. Even the parts that had Clara in it were not really, I miss Clara so much. It was more like a conversation in his own head with what was left of her since she was his conscience.
Are we borrowing from the Mind Palace?
A lot of people were saying that because Stephen Moffat writes the Mind Palace in Sherlock, that he has also given the Doctor a Mind Palace. A lot of people were making that comparison,
Mind Palace, or was all of this that existed inside of the confession dial? Was it outside of our reality? Was it basically in some time compressed or expanded version of the Matrix?
Well, let's get back to that. I want to address the Mind Palace thing.
Yep.
I think the Mind Palace, what people are calling the Mind Palace, is actually a very clever way of visually explaining what Missy explained to us verbally in the second episode, which was that the Doctor has this ability to make hundreds of calculations a second, and that's why he gets out of these situations. That's why he always seems so clever. Well, now we've actually seen that happen. We've seen into his mind. We've seen his process. That's how fast his mind works. His mind doesn't even work in real time. It actually moves so fast that in order for us to see it, we have to slow down time. I think that was really cool.
Yeah.
As to the confession dial, there were a couple of different theories floating around. One is pocket universe. One is that it's kind of like a TARDIS in itself.
Sure.
And my personal favorite is that basically it's kind of a Matrix type thing to where it doesn't exist in real time. When the Doctor emerged from his confession dial, it is present day Gallifrey, whatever present day is at this point. In other words, he's not seeing Gallifrey 22 billion years later. He's been transported into his confession dial, and then when he gets out of the confession dial, it's virtually the same point in time, that he was when they transported him in there.
He could tell the passage of time by looking at the stars while he was in there, though.
That seems to lend it better to the pocket universe theory than the matrix slice theory.
All of this was just, but visual representations of the passage of time, his determination to get out of his own personal hell.
Yeah.
And his determination, he literally, spent 4.5 billion years, one impact at a time. He could have easily gone and picked up a spade, but he didn't. It was one man using his resources.
I'll tell you this, the fact that most of the rooms in that environment reset kind of shores up the idea of it being a matrix data slice.
Mm-hmm. That's
Why
true.
didn't the room with the diamond roll reset?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, there has to be a way out of the confession dial.
Well,
Does there?
not only that, the accumulating pile of skulls at the bottom of the
those didn't
sea
reset either.
Didn't
Yeah.
reset either. So
Nor did the sand that he wrote the word bird in.
right.
No, he rewrote it every time he had to fry himself.
But then he saw it after he teleported out, didn't he?
Right, so it was still there.
Yeah.
Well, if it hadn't reset, there'd be an entire room that would be full of his ashes. So
Yeah.
it reset to some degree.
Well, and I think there is a way of explaining that if you really want to. The room resets after he leaves it.
Oh, so technically he didn't leave.
So he writes bird in the sand. He dies. He then teleports back. He hasn't technically left the room yet, right?
Yeah.
So
Well observed.
when
Yeah.
he leaves the room, that's when he resets. So you can still see the word written in the sand.
Nice.
The sand that is what? His own remains?
Probably.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. It's kind of like the question of who left that first set of clothes.
Exactly.
Whoever left the first set of clothes, whoever left the sand there for him to write in.
And all the notes to find room 12.
Yeah, I mean, do we really need those questions answered? This is part one of a two-part story. People are really scratching their heads over this, and I'm going, we got next week. It's okay.
Yeah, the point of it is not all of those little details. Those all add flavor to the story. The point of it is that it demonstrates his determination in a way to get home.
Yeah.
And the whole episode draws a line
love
in
it.
the sand between the 4 years, it seems, or 40 years of Clara and then the future, like you said.
Yeah.
And I liked the fact that when it said home, he thought it was the TARDIS because he saw the light glowing, but it was actually Gallifrey.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting because one of the things that you mentioned a lot, Lewis, last season was they had this trope of the doctor is mistaken.
Yeah.
Well, this time he was mistaken again, but this might have actually had a better outcome because he was thinking TARDIS and he ends up on Gallifrey.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
Neat.
I am the Doctor. I'm coming to find you, and I will never, ever stop.
How does this relate to what he said very early in this season when he told Davros, Gallifrey is safe from you and me? Does that mean that the Doctor knew that the confession dial was a way back to Gallifrey? Or was he simply stating something that he knew well enough to be a fact without actually knowing where Gallifrey was? Personally, I think he didn't know where Gallifrey was.
Yeah. Bluff.
He was bluffing Davros because why not?
I mean, they were bluffing each other, really, right?
Yeah.
They were both play acting, exactly. You know, so it would not surprise me that the Doctor bluffed at that point.
He really did not want to ever truly find Gallifrey after that initial frustration because he knew something like, this would happen. He wouldn't be able to control himself. And that's what we'll find out next episode.
What about the fact that we have this apparent dichotomy between the concept of the soul in the Doctor Who universe and the concept of a teleport in the Doctor Who universe? Because the way teleports operate, in theory, is that you're completely disassembled at one point. All of your component atoms are just completely disassembled and then reassembled at another point. So basically, if you believe in a soul, you have died, and then a soulless copy of you has been recreated at another point.
And is it even your atoms, or are they just convenient atoms that were lying around?
Are they just matter that's been in storage waiting for a pattern?
Is it a copy of you, or is it your original parts?
Right. And that's something that hasn't been answered. We do know that teleports exist in Doctor Who, and they have for a long time. But with Face the Raven, we got the concept of a soul in the Doctor Who universe. Therein lies a topic for discussion.
Well, perhaps somebody will take this opportunity to codify the difference between a transmat, a teleport, and a transporter.
And a time ring and a TARDIS.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so what about the process that the TARDIS or time ship dematerializes and rematerializes?
It enters the vortex.
And it goes through the vortex.
Goes through the
That's
vortex.
different.
But it disappears. And what was actually on his arm? Was what is on his arm a teleporter a la Blake 7? Or was it actually a time ring?
I think it was like a GPS tracker. The Time
Well, but
Lords,
he left it behind. It fell onto the floor.
the Time Lords knew
Yeah.
where he was,
That's
so they
true.
could teleport him at that point.
It sure did look like a Liberator
Yes, it
teleport
did.
bracelet, didn't it?
Let's assume inside the confession dial was real. When he made that sacrifice for his future self so he could persistently come back and bust through the wall, did his essence reintegrate into the pattern, the fresh pattern, but just minus the experiences? Or was he killing himself a la the Prestige every single time?
He did have to refigure everything out
Right.
from the beginning.
But that could be just him not having the memories, kind of like
Right, but the memories were stored with his old brain back in the pattern buffer.
right.
So,
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that we really could pick apart if we really wanted to,
Yeah.
like the fact that the Doctor would actually have to have a little less matter every time because he leaves his skull behind. So he'd be about 2 pounds lighter every single time. But on the other hand, he ate some soup while he was there.
There you go.
Did he eat 2 pounds of soup?
Maybe he injected some dork matter into there. I don't know. But it's all philosophical, and it's great to be able to talk about this. This episode was that good.
Yeah.
That these things get people talking, and
Yeah.
anyone who was not a fan of Moffat and watches this and still not a fan of Moffat, then they're not a fan of Moffat for the wrong reasons.
Well,
I think he has conclusively proven that he still does have ideas.
I think
you know, still has some great stuff to share.
I think this is the most Moffat-like episode that we've got from Stephen Moffat. So if people don't like Stephen Moffat, they're going to hate him after seeing this one. Because, it's just like somebody saying, I don't like the color blue, and then you bring them the bluest possible shirt to wear.
You know, honestly, I think from what I've seen online, the people that hate this episode are the ones that hate mental exercises and prefer episodes that are basically more a mix of action, adventure, and romance. You're very American style stuff.
Yeah, a lot of people just don't see the point to the show
thinking.
without Clara. They don't see a point to this episode because Clara's not there. Whereas I think it was a great synthesis of a lot of good things. The Deadly Assassin was a great episode. This is a callback to that.
Yeah.
Taking 1 billion years to break through a wall, that to me, that one of my favorite movies, The Shawshank Redemption. Taking forever to break through that wall with the tiny little hammer. There were a lot of things. If you rip a lot of things off and put them into an episode and it's bad, that's bad writing. If you rip off a lot of things and put them into an episode and it's good, that's good writing.
That's an homage.
It's right. It's a tribute.
It's like Brain of Morbius. We know that was a Frankenstein ripoff,
Oh, God. And the writer disowned that.
but it was enjoyable.
yeah, it was fantastic.
So if we say that this episode reminds us of X, Y, and Z, but we still enjoyed it,
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with that. But people were saying, Stephen Moffat's just, borrowing his own ideas and borrowing ideas from these other things. And that's okay if you come up with a synthesis,
Yeah, if it works, it's still good.
Yeah, it's like a smoothie.
Blended to perfection.
Exactly.
Yeah. More original ideas, please. I do hope that they can keep it up.
Yeah.
The season's been great so far. I think they're going to stick the ending.
I hope so, too. And I can't wait to see what happens when the Doctor is on Karn.
So I'm not more than a single light year from where I was. And I'm in the same time zone.
Some hangovers can only be cured on Karn.
Or maybe it's Morbius back again to...
Oh, Morbius.
Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be fun.
Huh.
They could engage in a game of mind bending again,
Can you imagine?
but this time with really good visual effects.
Right. Who is...
And the current production staff is the other incarnations.
who is that other
The hybrid.
Gallifreyan
Yeah.
that we're seeing in the trailer?
Right. It's a hybrid between a bear suit, a fish globe, and
Kondo's arm.
Kondo's arm. You can use Kondo's arm for this, and a crab monster. Right.
That's right.
Clara said, I shouldn't take revenge. You should know. I don't always listen.
Not too long ago, we were talking about how amazed we were that Murray Gold was still the composer after 10 years.
Oh, good call, because his music in this one was great.
Yeah,
it was great. Yeah, I really liked it. You know, there have been times in this season where I really felt like he was maybe pulling from music he had already written. It didn't quite fit the show.
Yeah.
But this episode was
He
fantastic.
was saving it up for this one.
Maybe so. You know, he was saving all his best stuff.
Well, it's either that or he saw this episode with all of its like drawn out, wordless sections of let's dress this up with some good music and let's make a leitmotif for this part here. And I really, really felt he took it up a level. He hasn't been this good in 10 years, so.
He did do one of my favorite tracks that he did was the second Dalek episode where Christopher Eccleston's doctor makes that "Rose, I'm coming to get you"
Yeah.
speech. That was a good underscore.
Absolutely.
I thought he struck a good balance between just dramatic enough and completely over the top.
Right.
And he did so again in this episode.
Yeah.
Not over the top. And Doctor Who is frequently over the top. But I thought this episode was pretty good.
Yeah, I was
in
really
terms of
pleasantly
scoring.
surprised. He could have just done an Inception ripoff.
Well, and it really helped set the tone of this episode. One of the problems I've had recently with Doctor Who is that there are good episodes, but then the tone is all over the place. Like, I look at the episode and I go, this is a good story. This is good characters, good characterization. We have good actors in it, but the tone is everywhere. The tone of this episode was rock solid,
Yeah.
all the way through. It didn't let up from beginning to end. Even the lighter portions of the episode were not humorous. They didn't throw any weird jokes in there to try to lighten the mood.
You're right. It was pretty bold as far as being kind of dark, suspenseful all the way.
But this is the good kind of dark.
Yeah.
This is not, there's a little bit of, I really didn't care for the fact that the doctor had to admit that he was scared. I thought it was kind of obvious the way he was acting it. But
it was part of the confessions. That was the first confession.
Right. He had
that
to
is
say
true.
something.
He had to say it out
He
loud.
had to
Never
say it
been
out loud.
said.
Okay, all right, that's good. That's not just spelling it out for the audience.
Right.
Yeah.
Or it's a great...
He's buying time, right?
It's a great
He
little
is buying
device. It's a great little device for Moffat to put in there,
But I'm sure the doctor didn't even think anyone was listening. He didn't think the creature could hear him.
Right, because it was just an image from
It was
his own
just-
nightmares.
Right.
But he knew that somebody was listening.
Did he?
Does that mean that he knew that he was in his confession dial?
No, I think he just talks out loud to himself, which is why he needs a companion there, so he seems less crazy.
But he uses the word confessions, though, that I need to make a confession.
Yeah, because that was the confession. The
Right.
confession was that he was scared.
Right,
And that's
but-
when the creature stopped.
At what point did he figure out that he was in there?
Right. When he said the word confession, did the light go off? Did he realize
bet.
at that point that he
Yeah.
was in the confession
Need to
dial?
go back and look at it.
It was he went back through the Mind Palace again, and Clara was like, what would you say made the creature stop? Mm-hmm. And he had to think about it for the next couple of scenes.
Right.
Perhaps it was all the cogs. Figured he was inside of a watch.
Yeah.
You know, it was really interesting. They didn't quite give it away, but in the teleport room, I remember thinking the way they kind of designed those little bits and bobs, I thought, it looks kind of like Time Lord technology, but very ancient. And I thought they did a really good job with that. You know, when it comes to the design of the show, I think this was a really good episode.
Yeah.
We got a little bit of that kind of, what was that video game? Mist?
Okay.
With the changing castle.
Because I had the same thought.
Yeah, yeah. So you had
that must be where he got a lot of it from.
you had Mist, you had, and all. I think Harry Potter did something similar with like moving
The
walls.
changing staircase.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Mist did it first, and so we had things in this episode that were recognizable, yet not completely.
Right.
Oh, I've seen that before.
Well, it took me a few minutes to overcome my suspicion that he was going to suddenly blurt out, "I'm on Gallifrey. I'm in the death zone." I thought for a second or two that he was in Rassilon's tower.
Yeah, there's something that they haven't revisited yet, have they? We haven't had the Death Zone.
Yeah, that's ripe for a revisit, isn't it?
I may come in the next episode.
I hope so.
Wouldn't surprise me. Does that mean at a certain point somebody's going to say, "This is the game of Rassilon"?
I hope that we get another famous Gallifreyan in the next episode.
But will it be Rassilon?
Or Omega.
Oh,
God.
OMG!
Like, oh my God.
It's a killer puzzle box designed to scare me to death, and I'm trapped inside it.
We do have me back, who apparently is the hybrid. Or is she? Come on, we got to talk about this.
Well, he said the hybrid is me, right? So
yeah. Right.
that's
So
it's
that-
either
Which, is it not something that was in the Eighth Doctor's movie that he mentioned?
or he's half human on his mother's side.
That's what.
Yeah.
That's the red herring. though.
That's where the
gotta be
line
the red
is.
herring.
Yeah.
That's where the line is. That people are coming down on one side or the other.
Yep.
They're
Yeah.
they're saying he could have said, "I am the hybrid," but instead he
No,
said, "The
it's
hybrid
me."
is me."
Right.
And that means
A
that
shielder.
it's a shielder, also known as me.
Who is his mom?
But then a lot of people are saying, "No, this is simply more Stephen Moffat misdirection." He said the hybrid is me because of because it's a grammatically incorrect, and he's actually the hybrid. He's half human on his mother's side, and this is 1996 TV movie all over again. Personally, I'm leaning on the Ashilder side.
Yeah.
I think he said the hybrid is me, capital M, but they don't know who me is. The Time Lords don't know who me is. Unless
they were the ones who made the deal.
Exactly. Unless they were them that me made the deal with. Personally, I wouldn't put it past the Time Lords to use an intercessor, an intermediary to do their dirty work for them,
Yeah.
so that the them that she made the deal with were not actually the Time Lords. The Time Lords are like the power behind the power. Yeah, we'll find out. Personally, I think me is the hybrid. I think Ashilder is the hybrid.
You can set traps. That's okay. I'm good at traps.
Did the Doctor talk the door into opening because he can't resonate wood? Or did he talk to the door because Stephen Moffat is a Douglas Adams fan
Yes.
and wants to have sentient doors? Personally, I'm leaning towards sentient doors. The only thing missing was, unfortunately, when he went through, we didn't hear the from the door as they sigh with the knowledge of a job well done.
Well, we didn't give the door a microphone.
That's true. That's true.
Thank you, marketing division of the Sirius Cybernetics Corporation.
Go stick your head in a pig.
Your plastic pallet's fun to be with.
So many in jokes.
We've made it all the way without mentioning Star Wars. Can we throw that in too? Somehow.
Yeah, it's just a big pile of Sith.
Well, we do have clones. 4.5
Sorta,
billion years
yeah,
of them.
Yeah.
I have to tell truths I've never told before.
In the beginning of the series, Moffat made a change. And his change was he got rid of the sonic screwdriver, albeit temporarily. We all pretty much concluded. Sonic shades. And then people got upset or thought it was awesome. Then he
Or both.
Right.
and then and then little changes here and there, and then they push the envelope on the format even more. The episode where they basically are having a found footage episode.
Oh, right.
So it's like he's peppering in these things like, I'm making these changes and I'm pushing the envelope on the format, and now I'm going to do this. So what is he going to... He's got to have to seriously up the ante for this season finale. Something super big.
Well, Gallifrey is pretty big.
Gallifrey is pretty big, but it can't just be, another... it's gonna have to. There's gonna have to be some big change. We all know Capaldi's coming back in the Christmas special, and one of his exes is coming back. But something huge.
Yeah.
has
Well,
to happen here.
personally, I think Stephen Moffat's strengths are writing television that looks good, but mostly deals with emotions.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the J.J. Abrams approach to Star Wars, that people are going to say, this is going to be like his Star Trek movies. This is going to be an action-packed movie, but it's going to have a fairly simple plot that you can follow. It's going to be mostly about the emotions of the characters. Personally, I think that's where we're going with this. We're going to see a lot of stuff. We're going to see a lot of people. But when it comes right down to it, like you said, it's all about the Doctor's resolve and what he cares about. And it's going to come down to the emotions of a few main characters, the Doctor, Ashildr, and whoever else happens to show up. Maybe Clara.
Yeah.
And
whatever agent provocateur is behind it all.
Yeah.
I'm fairly convinced it's going to be, a big baddie. Like putting the Master in there would make a nice loop from the beginning of the season.
right. The Sisterhood could be the intermediaries,
Yeah.
which would give the story some good color and some
It could even
characters that
be-
need
it
to be
could
fleshed out.
Davros or something stupid like that.
It
too,
could be, but as long as it's satisfactorily resolved and the characters don't act too weirdly out of character,
Yeah.
I think we've been set up for a really nice season closer.
Your comment about potentially Omega. There was a Big Finish audio drama featuring the Eighth Doctor, which featured the Sisterhood of Karn, which featured the Doctor being teleported in and Omega being reconstituted from bits that were left down a quarry or whatever. So I wouldn't put it past them to integrate that bit of storyline in, similarly the way they've done several fantastic stories in the past.
It would be fantastic to see them film in a quarry again.
You know what I'm saying?
It's been too long.
It really has. Get all sentimental about those quarries.
You and the production staff.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since Doctor Who went to a quarry. I bet if they did, they could get really excited about it.
I mean, quarry technology has come a long way,
Yeah.
It's all about the lighting.
Yeah.
Yes. And please don't bring back the quarks. One of the things that we need to lose from that episode. God, what was that? The Dominators?
The Dominators.
Patrick Troughton episode?
You're dating yourself.
Well, no one else will.
Ah, very well done. Very well done.
All right, so next week we're looking forward to the Sisterhood of Karn. Sacred Flame.
Yeah.
Sacred fire.
Yes. We're going to see Time Lords again for the first time since the big 50th
Yeah,
anniversary
including
special.
the Time Lord General, who was in the 50th.
So he's back. Now, in the trailer, there was an older Time Lord. Have we seen him before?
I don't think so.
I didn't recognize him. So we've got at least two Time Lords to deal with. Could it be good cop, bad cop?
Or a new High President,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true.
probably.
Well, we also have the older Time Lord, and then we have, in one of the teaser trailers, we have somebody saying regeneration in progress.
Yeah.
So the older Time Lord regenerates and becomes, who knows? We'll find out.
Yeah.
See, some people are saying the regeneration in progress thing could be referring to the Doctor. I really doubt that. It's going to be somebody else. And it's going to be somebody who surprises the Doctor, I think.
Romana.
That would be something, wouldn't it?
We can but hope.
The Imperatrix of Gallifrey.
Yeah.
Every room, if I leave it long enough, reverts to its condition at the moment I arrive.
Looking forward to next week. It looks like they're throwing several monsters in. Nah.
We'll see.
Yeah, I really hope the Weeping Angels don't play a big part in this episode.
They were in the trailer?
Yeah, just a flash of them on the screen.
Oh, boy.
Yeah,
Dalek, Cybermen, Weeping Angels. Oh my.
right. The Weeping Angels were good in the beginning, but then they kind of got dumbed down, and they just kept appearing, and we never learned anything new about them. I think it's time to either flesh them out or let them go for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, Moffat created them. The fans love them. They're really great for cosplay.
Right, they're great for cosplay. They're a one-trick pony as
Yeah.
far as...
Don't
They're-
they look tired?
Yeah, really are. Don't you think the statue looks tired? Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks for being here, and we'll see you
Fantastic.
next week.
All right.
Cheers.
I knew it would devolve into a Star Trek callback.
Of course.
Called it.